3, Diverse Learners, an overview. Parts 3 and 4 of this module provide an overview of the diverse learner categories. Other modules focus more specifically on certain exceptionalities and may be of interest to paraprofessionals working in specific classrooms. It is also important to note that this module gives broad generalizations and information about exceptionalities. Keep in mind that students are all unique and fall within a continuum of each exceptionality category. The special education team and IEPs make specific recommendations based on student need. For parts 3 and 4, a note-taking tool has been provided in your anticipation guide. The guide allows you to write a brief description of each disability category, as well as ways to support students with that specific exceptionality. Due to the content and pace, you may choose to pause the video in between each category to complete the guide. The Individuals with Disabilities Education Act, commonly referred to as IDEA, requires public schools to provide special education services to all eligible students. IDEA recognizes 13 disability categories. We will go over 6 of the categories in Part 3 and the remaining 7 in Part 4. Please remember, you should always refer to the teacher's guidance when implementing a student's specially designed instruction. Much of the content from Parts 3 and 4 comes from understood.org, which is an excellent resource for disability information and guides. It has been linked in your Module 2 materials. The first disability category we will cover is specific learning disability. Specific learning disability is an umbrella term that covers a wide range of learning challenges, including reading, writing, listening, speaking, reasoning, and math. Specific learning disability is the most commonly occurring category under IDEA in the United States. Students identified as having a learning disability may have a variety of needs. Paraprofessionals may be asked to work with individual students or small groups of students to work on specific skills. Often, these students benefit from repetition. They need a lot of practice to acquire skills. We will now view a short video from understood.org. This video is part of Understood's Day in the Life series. Links to other videos which further explain learning disabilities from a student's perspective are linked within the Module 2 course materials and are optional to view as part of Module 2.
My name is Maya. I'm in the 2nd grade and I have trouble reading. When I open up a book, some words I can read, some words I can't. I mix up words and sounds sometimes. I would look at pictures and try to read the words that I could read. Other kids were getting done really fast, but I felt like I wasn't learning. And they felt like they were learning, but I didn't feel like I was learning, and I wasn't getting done very fast. I just got really frustrated and I felt like I couldn't do it.
Reading can be really difficult for some kids. We're asking 5- and 6-year-olds to master a complex system of letters and sounds. We know they can do it, but it's not always easy. For young children with reading issues, just opening up a book can be discouraging. And reading in front of the class can be embarrassing. Kids might be trying so hard to sound out each word that the meaning of those words escapes them. If we don't give our children the skills and support that they need, they might come to hate reading or to think that they just can't do it. Fortunately, there are ways to help children find their footing and to understand that they aren't dumb. Their brains just work a little differently. For example, we can show kids how changing just one letter can make a huge difference in how a word sounds and what it means. Just think about pit, pet, pat, pot, and put. That basic awareness, especially of the vowel sounds, can be a big step toward unlocking the mystery of reading. With the right strategies and accommodations, almost every child can become a skilled reader.
I had to read books in the summer every day. I started to read every word that I saw. Now I try to sound it out. Like if I was doing happy, P, and I get the words right. I've been reading road signs, and every word I see I try to read.
Some strategies for working with students with specific learning disabilities include sitting near students to help them focus their attention during instruction, helping teachers provide a distraction-free environment in the classroom, helping students with organization of their materials and schedules, and providing students with repeated practice and repetition of concepts, sometimes using visual aids or manipulatives. Autism spectrum disorder is another umbrella term used to classify a developmental disability with a wide variety of symptoms and characteristics. Most commonly, autism spectrum disorder affects a child's social and communication skills, but it may also impact behavior. Along with specific learning disabilities, autism spectrum disorder has become increasingly prevalent in the United States. Please note that in 2013, the DSM-5 replaced autistic disorder, Asperger's disorder, and other pervasive developmental disorders with this umbrella diagnosis of autism spectrum disorder. We will now view a short video featuring Temple Grandin. Ms. Grandin was diagnosed with autism as a child. She talks about how her mind works, sharing her ability to think in pictures, which helps her solve problems that typical brains might miss. She makes the case that the world needs people on the autism spectrum, visual thinkers, pattern thinkers, verbal thinkers, and all kinds of kids.
You know, you never get cured of autism. But what you do is you learn better, is you learn more and more things.
Well, I didn't speak until I was 4. Now I have a BA and a master's, and I'm studying for my doctorate.
I can remember the frustration of not being able to talk. I couldn't get my words out. My speech came in gradually, a few words at a time. When I was a little kid, I was very autistic, nonverbal, rocking. You know, that's the kind of kid they just put away in the institution. But I had a speech teacher that worked really hard with me, and I can't emphasize enough the importance of young children getting early intervention. You got a 2-year-old or 3-year-old with no speech, don't wait. High school was absolutely worst part of my life. Teasing, teasing, teasing. I got kicked out of school for throwing a book at a girl, teased me because, you know, teasing really made my life miserable. And the only places I could get away from teasing was the specialized activities. Things like horseback riding, electronics lab, model rocket club. The line was drawn in the sand. I was not allowed to become a recluse in my room. I had to get out and do things. I'm always kind of baffled at just how illogical people are in their thinking. I'm very logical in my thinking. But when I was younger, I didn't know that other people thought more in words. You see, I think in pictures. If I don't have a picture, I don't think. And my mind is very, very associative. Being a visual thinker, I tend to put things into categories. You see, autism is a very big spectrum. At one end of the spectrum, you got half the people at Silicon Valley. And then at the other end of the spectrum, you've got somebody who's very handicapped, remains nonverbal, is going to have to live in a supervised living situation. Really, really big spectrum. And, you know, Einstein probably be labeled autistic today in a lot of school systems because he had no speech until age 3. I'm interested in seeing something that makes real change. I've done a lot of work that's made a lot of improvements in the livestock industry, and I think I've helped a lot of kids succeed. I want to see the kids that are like me succeed. That's the kind of stuff that makes me happy, when I see the things that I do make a difference.
Children with autism spectrum disorder have difficulty processing information that is coming to them from their environment. We have to help them organize what they see, hear, and feel around them. Providing structure is key. This includes using pictures and personal schedules so students have routines and predictability. Students who struggle with behavior are likely to have behavior management plans or other specialized programming. Work with the special education teacher and special education team to understand what the specialized programming is for each student. The next category is speech and language impairment. This is another prevalent disability in the United States. This category covers difficulties with speech or language. It includes stuttering, trouble pronouncing words, or making sounds with the voice. Often students with a speech and language impairment have difficulty understanding words and expressing themselves. Districts and intermediate units often have speech and language pathologists on staff. These specialists may work one-on-one or with small groups of students. Paraprofessionals can support students with speech and language impairments by modeling appropriate pronunciations. Also, initiate conversations with the student to give them opportunities to practice their oral language skills. The next category is emotional disturbance. This is another broad category, and under this classification, students are likely to have an inability to learn that cannot be explained by intellectual, sensory, or health factors. Also, an inability to build or maintain satisfactory interpersonal relationships and/or inappropriate types of behaviors or feelings under normal circumstances. Various mental health issues under this classification include anxiety disorder, schizophrenia, bipolar disorder, obsessive compulsive disorder, and depression. Some of these may also be classified under other health impairment, which is the category we will cover next. A key strategy for working with students with an emotional disturbance is to form relationships. Building trust and practicing empathy and respect are the foundations to building relationships. Understand that building relationships with these students will take time. Many of these students have experienced significant trauma in their lives, which is a large contributing factor to their inappropriate feelings and behaviors. This trauma sometimes makes it difficult for them to build relationships with new people. Students with emotional disturbance also benefit from the use of predictable routines and schedules. If a schedule change must occur, be sure to tell the student as soon as possible. Avoid taking misbehavior personally. This is sometimes very difficult, but it is a key factor in managing behavior and maintaining relationships. Try to begin viewing behavior as a form of communication, not as a personal attack. Work with a special education team to find the reason, sometimes referred to as the antecedent, for why the misbehavior is occurring. Many students with emotional disturbance have specific behavior management plans. As a paraprofessional, it is important for you to understand what is in these plans. Our next category is other health impairment. This is another umbrella category that covers a wide variety of conditions. It limits a child's strength, energy, or alertness and affects his or her education. Examples of impairments included under other health impairment include attention deficit disorder, asthma, epilepsy, Tourette syndrome, and heart conditions. Next, we will watch this short video to learn more about students with attention challenges.
I'm Noah, I'm in the 11th grade, and paying attention is not easy for me. Having attention issues is like having warfare with yourself. Your mind is telling you don't move, but your muscles and your body and everything else is telling you get up and move your feet. You're either tapping your knee, tapping your hand, playing with the desk, doing something that makes you want to move, but you can't. When a teacher would try to get my attention, I would kind of play a TV show in my head. Like a TV show would literally play in my head. I'll make all these weird little sound effects, a little like, teacher will be like, stop that. And I'll be like, okay. Then I'll just go back to doing it again. They'll be like, stop that. And I'll be like, okay. And then I'll just go back to doing it again. And it really gets them frustrated. And I'm more frustrated with myself because I can't stop. Didn't have many friends, probably one friend. And if that, probably within a couple weeks, he thought it was weird and he didn't want to talk to me.
For some students, staying on task can be a real challenge. Their minds are constantly churning, so it's hard to pay attention to just one thing. Older kids with attention issues have already spent years being nudged and prompted by their parents and teachers. Try harder, we sometimes say, when in fact it's simply impossible for some kids to filter out all the distractions. Their brains are wired differently. These are curious, creative, energetic kids. With their minds racing so fast, it can be hard to slow down and listen to the teacher, or give a friend the chance to tell a story without jumping in. There's a lot we can do to help kids cope more effectively. We can give them things to fiddle with, some space to move around in, some extra help in managing their time more effectively and paying attention to details. All of that can take a lot of practice and a lot of reinforcement from the adults in their lives. But we're usually most effective when we keep in mind the strengths in our children, their passion, their energy, their spontaneity, their flashes of brilliance, their ability to see things differently. By keeping an eye on the things our kids do well, we can help them unwrap their gifts and make best use of them.
It felt like I was the only one with this problem. And even when they did say they knew how I felt, they didn't really. I was taking Latin 2 years ago for the first time. Anytime I would try to learn this language, I would go do an exercise. There would be a syllable, I would do a push-up and say the word. Some way to grab my attention, to have my full attention. Sometimes I would twiddle my thumb, or I would tap my foot. Something would have to be moving, so I would remember that I need to keep on track with the book. A year ago, I had to write an essay paper in a couple of hours. So I have a certain set time, and there was no way I was gonna pay attention, but I told myself I was gonna pay attention, so I used all the little things that I used to pay attention. I got that paper done before anybody else in that class, and I was so happy. I was out of there, I was free, 20 minutes in advance. Oh, felt so good.
Because this is a broad category, it is difficult to anticipate the individual needs of students classified under other health impairment. It is important for paraprofessionals to work as part of the special education team and receive training for specific health conditions. If students have personal care aides or nurses, it is important for the paraprofessional to work as partners with these professionals. Overall, it is important to ensure the safety of the student at all times. The next category, defined under IDEA, is visual impairment. A child who has eyesight problems is considered to have a visual impairment. This includes partial sight or blindness. If eyewear can correct a vision problem, it does not qualify. Some students may have vision changes throughout the day based on factors such as fatigue, lighting, or medication. Students with visual impairments may work with a vision teacher as well as an orientation and mobility specialist. Students with visual impairments may use a variety of assistive technologies, including Braille, enlarged print, speech reading devices, tactile finger spelling, or mobility canes. As a paraprofessional working with these students, it is important for you to understand which supports the student needs in order to be successful. If a student has a device they use for reading or writing, you may be given specialized training on how to use the technology. It is important for students to become independent, resist the urge to do things for the student, and instead learn how you can support the student in his or her independence. This ends part 3. We have covered many diverse learner categories. Take a few minutes to add any additional notes to your anticipation guide, and then complete the questions under section 3 before moving on to part 4.